What do you expect when you visit a restaurant? I'm guessing you probably expect good food and great service. But what no one would ever expect is news that the body of a human being was hidden in the walls of their favorite restaurant. Sadly, this is something that became a reality for the residents of North Canton, Ohio, and the truth behind this shocking story revealed how cold-hearted some so-called parents can be. This is the story of Ashley Zhao. Welcome to YARO Crime. Today, we'll be taking a look at the disturbing case of Ashley Zhao. We also post true crime stories regularly, so you may please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you enjoy our content. Thank you. Our story today takes us to Ohio. This state was home to the Zhao family, who resided in Ohio's Jackson Township of Stark County. Lan Zhao and Ming Chen were a young couple, living in the quiet town of Jackson. The couple worked to earn an honest living, with aspirations of settling into the big new country they'd moved to. Although Lan Zhao was a naturalized citizen of the United States, his wife Ming Chen had illegally migrated to the US as a teenager, in search of better living standards, and only eventually applied to the US for asylum in 2009. Lan Zhao and Ming Chen eventually got married. After being in a relationship for a while, and after a few years, they had given birth to two daughters, Jojo and Ashley, and it is on Ashley that our story sadly focuses on. Ashley Zhao was born on the 30th of December 2011. Despite the joy of giving birth to a child, it sadly soon became clear that the birth of Ashley was too stressful for her parents to handle. Leon and Ming owned an Asian restaurant in North Canton, and struggling to maintain the restaurant and keep it afloat was extremely demanding on the young parents. But it seemed that the work they put in was paying off. The reviews from customers were good, the dishes were considered to be fresh, and their delivery times seemed to be fast. Their workers also often received compliments on the way they treated customers. But all of this was soon about to change. As work at the restaurant continued, Liang and Ming chose to focus all their attention on work and refused to make any time to spend with their daughters. As a result, Ashley moved to New York to live with her grandmother, which allowed Liang and Ming to focus on work and their older daughter Jojo. Ashley eventually returned to live with her parents in October 2015, but it seemed that she picked up some bad habits during her time away, as she would often refuse to listen to her parents. Ming was completely immersed in work and was becoming increasingly frustrated with Ashley's behavior. There were also reports that she was having to deal with her husband's gradually increasingly abusive behavior. But sad as this may sound, it unfortunately was only the beginning for the Zhao family. On January 9, 2017, Lion phoned 911 with some very disturbing news. He told the operator that while he and his wife were working, Ashley had awoken from her nap and walked out of the restaurant's back door, and she hadn't returned since. The news of Ashley's disappearance sparked a statewide search, with police combing the nearby areas in search of her. The locals also joined in the search, scouring nearby woodlands and peering in the lakes and parks. But despite everyone's best efforts, there were no results that could help in locating Ashley. As the search for Ashley continued, investigators turned their attention towards the restaurant, as they believed that if Ashley was abducted from the restaurant, then the abductor may have left some clues behind. However, after searching the restaurant and the area surrounding it, investigators would discover something far worse than they could have ever expected. Just as is the case with most restaurants, the Zhao family restaurant had a large freezer capable of holding several days' worth of food. When investigators looked at the side of the freezer, they noticed a small opening in the wall of the restaurant. Although the opening was closed off, investigators decided to move the appliances aside and see what may be within the opening. As they moved the appliances aside, they noticed that the hole in the wall was big enough for a child to fit through. With their hearts pounding and their pulses racing, they looked into the wall and found a salt container. After opening the lid of the container, the officer's worst fears were confirmed. Within the salt container lay the lifeless body of Ashley Zhao. She had never left the restaurant, as her father claimed, and the discovery of her body raised a lot of new questions. At this point, both Liang and Ming had no idea that the body of their daughter had been found, as they had been requested to stay away from the restaurant while the search was ongoing. However, within 40 minutes of discovering Ashley's body, police officers arrested both parents and took them away for separate interrogations. After an hour of interrogation, Liang came clean and told officers everything that had happened on the day of Ashley's supposed disappearance. In a direct and unemotional tone, he narrated to the officers how Ming had lost her temper when Ashley pooped her diapers. According to him, Ashley was 5 years old and should have been potty trained. In a fit of rage, Ming lashed at Ashley and struck her with a punch to the face. Ashley's head struck the floor and she became unconscious, although, according to Liang, she was still breathing at this point. But instead of seeking medical assistance, he tried to handle the situation himself. Ashley passed away several minutes later after Liang had tried in vain to awaken her. Mortified by the death of their daughter and worrying that they may lose everything they'd worked for, Liang and Ming decided not to inform the authorities and instead choose to make Ashley's death look like an abduction or accident. According to Liang, they dressed Ashley up, drove her into the restaurant, and put her in her bed to make her sister think she was sleeping. This was done to make her sister an alibi and a witness that could verify their cooked-up story. As the investigators continued the interrogation, Liang confessed that he then hid Ashley's body in a salt container near the restaurant's walk-in freezer and returned to work like nothing had happened. Throughout the interrogation, Liang remained emotionless, and it was clear that he had no compassion over the death of his daughter, as he would often refer to her as it, and spend most of his time expressing his fear of being caught, instead of expressing any kind of remorse. Ming began her interview by explaining the reasons why she hit her daughter. Just like Liang, Ming also seemed emotionless as she recounted what had happened. She confessed that she had indeed beaten her daughter to death in a fit of rage after losing her temper due to the fact that Ashley had not yet been potty trained. She added that she told her husband to take care of it, referring to the death of her own daughter and heartlessly referring to Ashley as it. The overwhelming evidence, coupled with the confessions of Liang and Ming meant that the case against them would pretty much be an open and shut case. On January 11, 2017, 2 days after Ashley's death, Ming Chen and Liang Zhao were arrested over suspected homicide. The judge at the municipal court placed their bonds at $5 million. This extremely high fee was chosen by the judge as he believed both Liang and Ming posed a serious flight risk back to China. When the trial began, Ming Chen pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity after being charged with the murder of her daughter. Stark County prosecutors, however, offered her a plea deal that involved lessening the charge to involuntary manslaughter. The repeated physical abuse Ming inflicted on Ashley was cited by the authorities, and the autopsy results showed that these assaults had resulted in traumatic brain injury that rendered her daughter unconscious and eventually led to her death. County prosecutor Jack Ferrero claimed that the evidence and interviews available prove that despite Ming's cold attitude, she did not plan or intend to kill her daughter. He further said that it was a tragedy committed in a fit of anger by a mother who had never bonded with her child. After retracting her initial not guilty plea, Ming ultimately pleaded guilty to child endangerment, corpse abuse, evidence tampering, and obstructing justice, and she was sentenced to 22 years in prison on December 29, 2017. On September 11, 2017, Liang Zhao pleaded guilty to 2 counts of child endangerment, corpse abuse, tampering of evidence, and obstruction of justice. He was also offered a plea deal that involved his murder charges being dropped in exchange for his testifying against his wife, and interestingly, he agreed to take the deal. Liang Zhao was sentenced to 12 years in prison on January 10, 2018. Ashley was a very young girl with a promising future. The only fault in her life was being born to parents who chose work over their daughter. After being sent away from her parents and suffering neglect and abuse on her return, The lack of love from her parents, coupled with physical abuse, would eventually result in her death. May she rest in peace. What do you think about this case? Let us know in the comments. And please do not forget to like the video and subscribe to YARO Crime. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.